It's the Brock and Salk Show, Seattle Sports here on 710 and seattlesports.com. Good morning, Jerry. How are you?
Good morning, Mike.
Let's jump right into this. I know you spoke to the media for about an hour on Tuesday, along with Scott and Justin, and obviously a lot to follow up on there. I think two comments have certainly generated the most amount of interest, so we'll start with those. The first being this idea of 54% winning percentage. Just trying to understand what it is you're trying to say. I made an attempt to try to understand it, try to interpret it. I think I maybe know what you meant, but can you explain what it means and how you arrive at a number like that?
Yeah, first I'd like to say I'm generally embarrassed by the way, at least, that comment and especially one other was received. And, I've been doing this job or roles like this for a long time now, and I've made mistakes. I've made my fair share, like most do, and this is kind of one of those times. And I just did a poor job of illustrating the points that I was trying to make. And in one case, I chose to try humor to lighten a grave question, and obviously that wasn't what the moment called for. And with this one, the 54%, I just completely whiffed in my attempt to paint a big picture baseline of what, obviously makes more sense to me than our fans and media. Our goal isn't to be mediocre. Our goal is to win championships and to play at a high level for a long time. And that's what I was trying to convey. It just, obviously it didn't help. And that's, I wish I could hit reset and try it again, but that moment's gone. And the best I can do is continue to try to be candid and accessible. And I feel like over my time here, we've done that. Players, staff, all of our personnel. We want our fans to feel like they're part of the team and at minimum have a front row seat to what's happening. We tell them what we're doing, and then we do that thing. They may not always agree with it or like it, but we're very candid in that way. And I can assure everyone that we want to win. And the 54%, that if you look back over the history of baseball, and I actually said this in the press conference. Unfortunately, it didn't make it to the cuts, but if you look back over the history of baseball since the divisional format came to be in 1969, in decade-long segments, teams that average or achieve 54% of win percentage over a 10-year period or greater, they tend to wind up in the World Series and consistent members of the postseason. And, we're not trying to win 54% of our games. We're trying to win 100% of our games. And, the 54% is if you reach that bar and you're able to stay at or above that bar for a 10-year period, you're going to play in World Series. And, and I say that confidently because it's true. 19 teams have been able to do that in decade-long increments, 19 different teams. And 16 of them have played in the World Series, and many have won championships. That's what I was trying to say, and it probably makes more sense to me. And, for that, I apologize. We're not trying to string you out. We're not trying to ask people to wait another decade. The significance of that is in this decade, that's what we're doing. We've from the start of the COVID summer in 2020, we have played at that level, and we've reached one postseason. We hope to reach many more, but we do it in a process-oriented way. And obviously, I did a poor job of trying to convey that thought, and I feel badly about it.
And just to clarify there, Jerry, the other comment was about the fan base and doing a favor, asking for their patience to win World Series. I just want to give you room to respond to that.
I hope I did. I was trying to use a little bit of humor. The question that I was asked was regarding the addition of big stars and what do you tell your fan base, if you don't deliver the big star, and when does the World Series come? And the simple answer to that is, adding a big star is much easier when you develop the big star, and we'll look at our center fielder as an example, or, the longtime great center fielder for the Mariners and Ken Griffey Jr. Acquiring a big star from outside is also contingent on the big star. So I can't guarantee you, when that will happen. And I also have been, involved in professional baseball all my life and to think that you're going to predict we will win the World Series is silly. You're not going to be able to do that. All we can do is continue to execute sound process and build a roster that is good enough to go compete with the best teams in the league. And while none of us is happy that we're sitting here at home, and that's how I opened up the comments on Tuesday, we feel proud of what we've built over time. We do feel like that this roster is built to be a championship roster moving forward. And now we need to go out and we need to add more pieces and find the extra offense, find a way to solve some of our needs, but recognize that we continue to get better in a lot of ways. And I tried to use humor to diffuse the situation, and I whiffed. It's just that clearly I'm not a very funny person, and I shouldn't have gone there. But that's what I did, and I can only apologize and again tell you that I'm embarrassed by it.
So thank you for that, Jerry. What is now then a reasonable expectation from fans for this team?
Well, I think that this is our baseline. Our baseline is that in the last 3 years we've built up an 88, a couple of 90-win seasons as we've watched a young team grow, and how we transition to the next level, from good to great, whatever that looks like. We want to be great. And I think if you look in any business, across not just professional sports, but business in general, generally setting up a lot of good and executing sound process over time will ultimately lead to great. And we are going to add from the outside. And, I've said many, many times, we don't hang up the phone on anything, whether it's free agents, it's trades. We're trying to find the right pieces. Would like to find one more bat that fits in the middle of our order. That's an important thing for this roster. And obviously we have to address the situation with Teo. We go into the off season with him staring at free agency, and that's a decision that has to be made. And minimally, that's a spot we'll need to fill, be it Teo or someone else. So, we don't feel like there are a ton of holes on this team. And part of the message that I was trying to convey on Tuesday is that in the big picture, we're very proud of what we've been able to build. And we all regret not making it to the postseason. But the long season in baseball is such that over time, if we continue to strike on these things, I think that we will be great. And I think most of our fans see that we're making those types of adjustments. And for those who don't believe, the best we can do is try to deliver what you're looking for. But I can't tell you that we're going to go sign the greatest free agent that's ever lived, because I don't know if that person is willing to be here. So we have to, every street has two ways, and we have to understand that.
Jerry, can you shed some light on what happened after Cal made his comments last week? There was a report from A.J. Przinsky that Cal was, quote, forcibly scolded and told to apologize.
No, never happened. And I don't speak with A.J. Przinsky. I did speak to Cal after he spoke to the media, and no one spoke to Cal. And this is very similar to not too long ago when George Kirby, spoke to the media. We did not speak to Cal, and I said it on Tuesday. Cal has his opinions, and he is free to share them, and that is true of all of our players, and we don't begrudge them that. And I said it to Cal. Hey, I appreciate the fact that you feel that way. We all want to win, and that was the conversation that I had with Cal. There's no forcible scalding. Frankly, we didn't even ask him to apologize. I didn't know he made the comments until I woke up on Sunday morning. So it's an emotional thing, the games that we play. And at the end of emotional runs, you'll say emotional things. And, I think that's the way you can wrap all of this, including my comments on Tuesday. And at the end of it, and I can't speak for Cal, I know I'd like to walk it back and try again to make statements that make more sense to people. And clearly, I think Cal felt the same way. And my guess is, and I know this to be true because he said it to me, he doesn't want to walk back the idea that we need to improve and find ways to get better and to win. And with that, we're in full agreement, and I can't express it in a different way. But to think that we're picking up the phone and calling or scalding somebody is crazy.
Jerry, is it concerning at all to have some of the core players, Cal, JP, some of the leaders asking questions about the future?
Not at all. It's their team, and they should ask questions about the future. And I said this during the presser as well. For Cal, and I said this to Cal, for Julio, for Logan and George, for Jared Kelnick, for so many of our players. Sunday's game was the first game that they've ever played as major league players that didn't have playoff implications. That's how far we've come in our organization's, development, our building. And it was a weird feeling for those guys. They didn't know what it was like to come to the ballpark and not have that game matter in the outcome of the season. And they should ask questions. But, at the end of the day, we look around the field, and from Cal Raleigh to, a year ago, Ty France is an all-star. J.P. Crawford just had one of the great shortstop seasons in the history of the organization. Gino has been a rock for us for 2 years. Julio has developed into a star. Our rotation, was clearly, if not the best in the league, one of them, for throughout the course. And, the emotion it's touchy at the end of a season. And, one of the hard things that makes it emotional is that we started the month of September in first place, and we ended here at home having this conversation. And, and sometimes, introspection is the hardest part of what we do. And each one of us, myself, first and foremost, could have done more to make up the one game that keeps us at home, or the 2 games that keep us from winning the division. We don't have a huge gap to close. We have focus, concentration. We need to fill out a roster that makes more sense than the one that I put together to start the season. And we'll get back after it and do the best that we can.
Jerry, we'll ask you a little bit about what that plan looks like coming up here in a minute. Just to kind of finish off this past season and look back a little bit. I know you said on Tuesday that the team took a step forward, and I think I understand what you mean. But again, can you understand how fans didn't see this year as a step forward, especially since the team won fewer games and they felt they had been promised the opportunity to go even farther than the year before?
Well, I hope that given a moment to step away from the emotion, and when I say that we made improvement in a lot of ways, we got better at everything, short of 2 things. We struck out too much, and we didn't win as many games as we won last year. But the components, everything that we did on the field, putting the ball in play, creating traffic, pitching, everything that we did year over year was a step forward in how we executed the fundamentals of baseball, picking it up, throwing it over, pitching it. We were generally good at all those things. We have a good team, and we fell short. We didn't convert those to wins. And I think Scott said it best on Tuesday. We just, we lacked the clutch gene. The thing that we have done so well for many years, and this dates back, even when our teams weren't as good as this one is now, we've always been very good at converting the 1-run wins, winning those tight games at the end, in the extra innings, and, the big hit. We're in that big moment. We just didn't have that gene this year. And I don't think it's reflective of the talent of our players. It might be reflective of the fact that we may have been a player short on the roster construction. And again, that's something I need to resolve. But we did get better. And when we ask our players at the start of the season to go out and attack it, that all they can be judged on is versus themselves. Are you getting better? And we ask them to get 1% better every day. Come in, focus on what you can do, and you can't really focus on the wins. And I know that's very hard for the fan base. It's very hard. We ask our players to focus on what's happening in the box, on what's happening when they throw that pitch. If you start focusing on the wins, and I'm just going to say it like I saw it, you start focusing on the wins, you play a little bit like we played in September, where the end goal, if the end goal is the win, you lose sight of executing the fundamental. And, we did get better at the fundamentals. We need to get a lot better at some of them than we did. And especially the idea of putting the ball in play. But, that's what we were trying to say, I was trying to say.
I think some of the frustration I hear, though, is that the margin for error could be larger, that with more talent or, whatever it may be, you don't find yourself in a position where those couple of games, those couple of moments end up, those couple of one-run games or extra inning games end up becoming so impactful for how a season ends?
Well, I guess I don't know if I agree with that. And, my thought there is, if you look across our team, I think we were second we led the American League in ERA. Our bullpen was one of the 3 best bullpens in the league throughout the year, including over the course of the last 2 months of the season. And our offense progressively got better and better. And, it's every team from the Dodgers and Orioles, this year's best teams, the Braves, they're going to have moments of struggle. They're going to have close games where they come up short. And, would I love to stumble into the biggest stars in the universe that are happy to come play in Seattle? Sure. And I think we have some. I think we have some that are developing on our roster. I know we have some all-star type talents that are developing in our system, and we'll be diligent in our attempts to go out and acquire players like that. But, teams are made up of 26 players. It's not a one-man show. It's not, I would love to be a 110-win team that's running off like a juggernaut with stars at every position. And, I just don't know that that's possible. That's a moment in time, and hopefully we can look forward. And I don't know what year that is. I don't know when it is in our development that we're looking at a team right now that's for 4 consecutive years. This year we, I think, tied with Oakland for the youngest team in the division. It's the 4th year that we've been the youngest team, and we win, and now we need to turn wins into playoff. We need to turn them into outcomes. We need to turn them into World Series. But our players need to focus on what's happening in the moment on the field. And if along the way, me and Justin, our front office, our scouting group can deliver them, that the freight train that can come through and join the middle of the lineup, I would love to do that. But I can't tell Cal or I can't tell JP. I can't tell them we will deliver that to you, because there are two roads. There are 2 people involved in that decision.
As you've studied these teams through the years, Jerry, and have all of those data points, is there any trend line that points to a team or an organization going from good to great, going from a 90 to an upper 90s, going to that next step? Is there anything over your decades of data that show what those teams have done?
Yeah, and this is where, my reference points just fall flat. And again, I apologize if people didn't understand where I was trying to go. But the reality is, those good to great teams, when your prime players are playing in their peak years, and I've said this on these airways for many years now, and again, just trying to be candid, players generally reach their peak seasons between the ages of 26 and 29, 30 years old. And, and this team, our average age is at the low end of that spectrum. And, next year, a lot of those players, and you can look at this year, some of the players that this year really stood out are right in the peak of their careers, guys like JP. And, this group is just reaching that point. Next year we'll line up with Logan and Cal and George all entering that stage in their career. And, look around the field. Who knows what Julio is going to look like when he gets to that stage of his career. He's still just 22 years old. And, that's the good to great moment. And along the way, like we did with Luis Castillo, like we did with Robbie Ray, frankly, I like it turned out with Teo. We'll constantly try to add impact talent to help push us over that next level. And sometimes it'll be long-term, like a Louis, and sometimes it'll be more of a short-term hit. But, the goal is to consistently put as big a talent as we can out on the field, because we feel like the foundation of this team is entering the peak of its potential. And we're not doing it for a year. We want to do this for many years. We want to win championships over time. And, and that it's unfortunate that there is no magic sauce. There isn't 2 major, every team that ever achieves greatness adds, a right-handed 40 home run hitter with a 350 on base. That's really not everybody does it a little bit differently. but it's about the function of the core of your team. And the core of this team is really good. And I don't want people to forget that.
Jeff Passan was on with us earlier this week, Jerry, and we talked to him an awful lot and have for years and years. And he said, quote, "It's time the Mariners need to get uncomfortable, whether that's through salary or a trade. Do you feel like this is an off season where you've got to push those comfortabilities?"
We already have, and and I know Jeff is in and out, and no one in the business knows the league better than Jeff does. And, I agree with him that we need to go add talent. We have gone out and made, the summer of 2021, or 2022, we made a very uncomfortable trade for an organization where we put together a ton of talent to go acquire a really talented pitcher. And then we signed him long-term, and we did take the plunge on doing a long, potentially career-long deal with our, budding star in center field. We will continue to do those things. And, being uncomfortable is part of our jobs. I want to be uncomfortable every day. The moment I get comfortable, we're in trouble. And, I don't know how to express it in a different way than that. We're constantly looking to move the needle. And, we've done things where you scratch your head and say, why would they do that? And then we've done things to generate a lot of excitement. And sometimes those things really do help us. And other times you fall a little flat. And that's where I tried to make some type of joke or light of a situation that clearly doesn't call for being, callous or funny.
So I guess to sort of ask some of that another way, is the organization over the last few years, right, since the rebuild started in 2018, if I understand right, one of the goals of that is to build up the talent and assets at the minor league level, system-wide, et cetera. Is the organization in a place now where you can afford to deal from your system and still maintain that sustainable winner spot that you want to be in?
Yeah, I think so. And, the end result is that we have built what we believe is one of the top farm systems in baseball, one of the best young rosters in baseball with a strong foundation. We've had a sniff of the zone that we want to live in last year. We missed on it this year. We want to get back. Everybody's hungry to do it. We're willing to cede some of that minor league talent to achieve what we want to achieve in the here and now, because we believe that our window's open. What we won't do is we won't go out and make many trades that empty our system of the talent that we think is going to allow us to continue to sustain this. And that's something that we've all discussed. Adding big league talent and roster development. You are constantly churning, and the goal is to put the best 26-man roster that you possibly can together. And and in some ways, you're then going out and focusing on the execution. But in the here and the now, we have payroll flexibility going into next year. We have talent, and it's a matter of whether those lines up. Those two things line up, and I think. The idea that we have continually gotten better. We try very hard to be thoughtful in what we're doing, because we want this not just to be an exercise for 2022 and 2023. We want this to be 2024 and well beyond. And I do think that we have the talent, both at the major and minor league levels, to make that happen.
Jerry, I think that'll do it for us today. Appreciate you taking the time to come on. I know we're not going to get to talk here for at least a few weeks, and kind of give everyone a little break as we go through the playoffs, and maybe talk as we get a little closer to the winter meetings. I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you being transparent and open with us throughout the course of this year. I think, and I hope that there is an impatience among the fan base that, predates your time here in Seattle. I don't think anybody holds you responsible for anything before you got here, but been a long haul for a lot of Mariners fans for a long time. And I think the word patience is hard for many to hear because of how much it's taken over the years. Good luck to you. This offseason is a big one, and the opportunity to try to bring in the next couple group of players that are going to help this team go good to great, I think is something of significant importance to this Mariners fan base.
There's no doubt of it. And then, believe me when I tell you, I don't take it lightly. As a lifelong baseball fan, I get it. And, we're doing the best that we can to deliver it as quickly as we can, but we're just not going to take shortcuts. And that's been our goal throughout. And we will continue to try to address all of our needs in a way that we think, gives us a chance to win World Series over and over. And that's the goal. And I hope the fans hear that.
Jerry, thank you. We appreciate it. Enjoy, hopefully, a little time off, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. There is Mariners President of Baseball Operations, Jerry Dipoto.